Gentleman from Georgia is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I appreciate the chairman yielding the time and the ranking member for being here, and also not only Mr. Ross and Mr. Crowley both for their sponsorship and co-sponsor this legislation. H.R. 1843, the Clyde-Hurst-Sowers Respect Act, is one of those things that you really at times have a hard time understanding why we're debating on the floor of the House. It is that much common sense. And as my grandmother used to say, common sense is not common, so here we are. If anyone has any doubt about the need to restrain the forfeiture power of the IRS, they need to look no further than what happened to one of the constituents already been mentioned, Andrew Clyde, whose namesake is on the bill. He's a law-abiding small business owner who served multiple combat tours. He had a successful gun, has a successful gun store in Northeast Georgia when the IRS received and seized his business bank accounts under a little-known procedure called civil asset forfeiture. Now, we've already talked about just a moment about what that means, but let me go into a little bit more depth about that. What actually happened here is Mr. Clyde was not charged with a crime when they seized his assets. In fact, he was never charged with a crime. In fact, the government's only allegation against him was he regularly made large cash deposits. In other words, following what his own insurance would protect when he made those off-premise accounts, he was following good business practices. Despite this, the IRS had the audacity to negotiate with him about how much of his own money they would get back to him. And the law as it stands today gives him the authority to do so, thus the need for the legislation. Now, rules have been changed and put in place, but this needs to be codified. At no time, and I have sat with Mr. Clyde on several occasions and talked about this case, and to hear the pain in his voice when he had to spend $100,000 in legal bills, plus at the same time to get the IRS to get back his money, he had to beg the government for his own property. No one should have had to go through this. And that is why I respect the authors of this legislation and appreciate their hearings and concern about this, because whether it's a bakery, a gun store, or any business, no American should have to face the IRS or the Justice Department when they've never been charged with a crime, they were never charged with a crime, and had their money taken from them. This is one that I am proud of, to see an American who stood up and said, no, this is not right. Unfortunately, it cost him money, but today, this wrong is being righted. We're going to continue to see this push through. And with that, I respect Andrew Clyde, his business, and all the others who have stood up and said, this is not right. I applaud the authors and say, now is the time to finish this. Let's make sure that this never happens to another American citizen again. And with that, I yield back.